Royal Guard horse takes man's gloves. Horse guards, Royal Guard. King's Guard, London, 2023. Red buses rolled through the streets, people hurried to work, and tourists walked slowly, looking up at buildings that had stood for hundreds of years. Near the heart of the city stood Horse Guards, a place known around the world. It was not just a tourist spot, but a living symbol of tradition, duty, and discipline. Every day, visitors came to see the Royal Guard and the tall, powerful horses that stood calmly on duty. Among the visitors that day was a man who had always dreamed of seeing the King's Guard in person. He had watched videos online and seen pictures in books, but being there felt very different. The air carried a sense of pride and seriousness. The guards wore their traditional uniforms, standing tall and silent. Their posture showed years of training. They did not smile, talk, or move without purpose. They were not there to entertain. They were there to serve. The horses were just as impressive. They were large, strong, and well-trained, with shiny coats and steady eyes. Each horse stood beside a guard, calm and alert. Even though many people stood nearby, the horses did not seem nervous. They had seen crowds before. They had heard laughter, footsteps, and camera clicks many times. Still, they remained focused, as if they understood the importance of their role. The man slowly walked closer, careful not to cross any visible boundaries. He noticed signs reminding visitors to keep distance and respect the guards and animals. At first, he followed the rules without thinking much about them. He was too busy taking in the moment. The sound of horses breathing, the quiet strength of the guards, and the historic buildings around him made everything feel special. Around him, tourists from many countries whispered to each other. Some posed for photos, standing beside the guards at a safe distance. Others simply watched in silence. Children looked up at the horses with wide eyes, holding their parents' hands tightly. The mood was calm but serious, like being inside a place where every action mattered. The man raised his phone to take photos. He wanted the perfect picture, something he could show his friends and family later. He adjusted the angle again and again, trying to capture the guard, the horse, and the historic background all in one frame. While doing this, he took off his gloves, thinking they would make it easier to use his phone screen. He did not think much about where he held them. They rested loosely in his hand, moving slightly as he adjusted his grip. The gloves were simple, nothing special, but they moved softly with the air and with the motion of his hand. The man did not notice how close he had slowly moved to one of the horses. He was focused on the screen, not on his surroundings. The horse stood tall and still, its ears slightly moving, aware of everything nearby. Animals notice small movements, even when they appear calm. The guard beside the horse remained completely still. His face showed no emotion. His eyes looked straight ahead. This was part of his duty. He was trained to remain focused, no matter what happened around him. The man did not know much about these rules. He thought the guard's silence meant everything was fine. Time passed slowly in that moment. The man took more photos, stepping just a little closer without realizing it. The crowd behind him shifted, some people coming, others leaving. The sound of footsteps echoed softly on the ground. Somewhere nearby, a camera clicked repeatedly. A child laughed, then was quickly quieted by a parent. The horse's large eyes followed movement near it. The gloves, moving slightly in the man's hand, caught its attention. To the horse, the gloves were not just clothing. They were an object moving close to its face. The horse did not act right away. It simply noticed. The man finally lowered his phone and looked up at the guard and horse in front of him. Standing so close made him feel both excited and slightly nervous. He smiled to himself, thinking about how lucky he was to be there. He did not notice that he had stopped respecting the safe distance. He did not mean any harm. He simply did not understand how important that space was. The sun reflected lightly off the horse's equipment, making it shine. The horse shifted its weight slightly, a natural movement that did not seem dangerous. Most people would not think twice about it, but small movements can mean many things when dealing with animals. The man adjusted his grip on the gloves again. They moved closer to the horse's mouth for just a brief second. It was not done on purpose. It was simply a moment of carelessness mixed with excitement. That single moment would soon turn into something he would never forget. Around them, no one noticed anything wrong yet. The crowd continued to observe, talk quietly, and take pictures. The guard did not move or speak. He trusted the training of the horse and the rules given to visitors. The horse remained calm, but alert. The man took a deep breath, feeling proud of himself for finally seeing something he had always wanted to see. He thought the moment was perfect and safe. He had no idea that a small detail, something as simple as holding gloves too close, was about to change the calm atmosphere. This was how the day began at Horse Guards in London. What seemed like a normal visit, filled with history and admiration, slowly moved toward an unexpected moment. The man, the horse, and the guard all stood together in silence, unaware that a simple mistake was waiting to turn an ordinary visit into a real-life lesson that would soon be remembered by many. The man stayed near the horse, still feeling excited and proud. He checked the photos on his phone and smiled quietly. They looked good, clear, and bright. The guard looked strong and serious, and the horse looked powerful and calm. The man thought this moment was special, something worth remembering. Because of this feeling, he stayed a little longer instead of moving away. Around him, more people arrived. Some waited their turn to take photos, while others watched from a distance. The crowd slowly changed, but the horse and guard stayed in the same position. The sound of the city continued in the background. Cars passed by, people talked softly, and cameras clicked again and again. Everything felt normal and peaceful. The man adjusted his jacket and shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He still held his gloves in his hand. Without thinking, he started moving his hand slightly as he talked to another visitor nearby. His hand gestures were small and natural, the kind people make when they speak. He did not notice how close his hand was to the horse now. The horse noticed, though. Horses are trained well, but they are still living beings. They see movement, feel air changes, and notice things humans often miss. The gloves moved gently as the man spoke. The horse's ears flicked again. Its eyes followed the motion, calm but curious. The man felt comfortable because nothing bad had happened so far. He believed that if something was wrong, someone would tell him. The guard had not spoken. The signs were there, but the man did not read them carefully. He thought standing a little closer would not matter. Another tourist nearby warned her friend to keep distance. The man heard it but did not realize it applied to him too. He smiled again, thinking everyone was just being careful. He did not understand that these rules were not suggestions, but important instructions meant to keep everyone safe. The horse stood tall, breathing slowly. Its large body looked steady and controlled. Years of training had taught it to remain calm in busy places. But training does not remove natural reactions. When something moves close to a horse's face, the horse will notice. The man looked up at the horse again, this time noticing how big it truly was. He felt a small moment of nervousness but ignored it. He told himself everything was fine. He had seen others stand close before. Nothing had happened to them, so he assumed nothing would happen to him either. He raised his phone once more, thinking of taking just one more photo. This time, he wanted a closer view. As he lifted the phone, his gloves hung loosely from his fingers. The movement was slow, but it was enough. The gloves swung slightly forward, closer than before. The horse's attention became stronger. Its head moved just a little, not enough to alarm anyone watching. To the crowd, it looked normal. Only someone experienced with animals might have noticed the change. The guard, trained to stay alert, sensed it but remained still. His duty was to stay calm unless action was truly needed. The man did not see any of this. He was focused on his screen, adjusting the frame. His heart beat a little faster, not from fear but from excitement. He wanted the perfect picture, something that would capture the moment forever. Time felt slow, stretched out. The gloves moved again as the man's hand shifted. The air was quiet around them, as if the city itself was holding its breath. The horse's nose moved closer, curious but controlled. The man finally lowered his phone, satisfied. He relaxed his arm without realizing what he was doing. The gloves now hung directly in front of the horse. It was a small distance but close enough to matter. A few people nearby noticed and took a step back. Someone opened their mouth to speak but stopped, unsure whether to say anything. The guard remained silent, following strict rules. He could not react unless the situation became serious. The man felt relaxed, unaware of how quickly things were about to change. He looked around, enjoying the attention and the experience. He did not see the horse's focus or understand what that focus meant. The horse did not act out of anger or fear. It was not upset. It simply reacted as an animal does when something unfamiliar moves close. The gloves were soft, light, and moving. To the horse they were an object worth noticing. The moment was delicate. One small step back could have ended it. One small movement away could have kept everything calm. But the man stayed where he was. The crowd's quiet energy shifted slightly. People sensed something, though they could not explain what. Cameras paused. Conversations stopped. The air felt tighter, heavier. The man smiled again, completely unaware. He thought the moment was peaceful. He did not know that his small mistake was about to turn into a lesson he would never forget. This was not a story of bad intentions or reckless behavior. It was a story of excitement, curiosity, and a lack of awareness. The man did not mean to break rules. He simply underestimated the importance of them. As the gloves moved one last time, closer than ever before, the horse's attention reached its peak. The calm scene at Horse Guards was about to change. What had started as a normal tourist visit was now standing at the edge of an unexpected moment, one that would soon draw gasps from the crowd and leave a lasting memory in the man's mind. The silence before that moment felt long and deep. Everyone was still. The guard stood firm, the horse stood ready, and the man, unaware and unprepared, stood just a little too close, holding something he should not have brought near at all. The moment changed without warning. 1 second, everything was still and quiet. The next second, the horse moved its head forward in a smooth but quick motion. It was not sudden in a wild way, but it was fast enough to surprise everyone watching. Before the man could understand what was happening, the horse gently but firmly took the gloves from his hand. The man froze, his body stiffened and his eyes widened. His first reaction was shock, not fear. His brain struggled to catch up with what his eyes were seeing. The gloves were no longer in his hand. They were now held carefully in the horse's mouth. The horse did not shake its head or step forward. It simply stood there, calm and steady, as if it had picked up something ordinary. A sharp sound of surprise came from the crowd. Several people gasped at the same time. Some stepped back quickly, their shoes scraping against the ground. Others raised their phones higher, recording without thinking. A few covered their mouths with their hands, unable to believe what they had just seen. The man's heart began to beat fast. He did not move right away. He stood completely still, unsure of what to do next. His hand remained in the air for a moment, empty and trembling slightly. He slowly pulled it back toward his body, careful not to make any sudden movements. The horse stood tall, its large body calm and balanced. Its eyes were steady, not angry or nervous. The gloves rested lightly between its teeth. To the horse, this was not a serious action. It was a simple response to something moving close to its face. The horse had not meant to scare anyone. It had only reacted in its own natural way. The guard beside the horse stayed still, just as trained. His face showed no panic. His posture remained strong and controlled. Inside, he was alert, watching carefully. But outwardly, he showed nothing. His duty was to stay calm so the situation would not become worse. The man slowly took one small step back. He did not run. He did not shout. He remembered the signs and warnings too late, but now he followed them fully. His breathing became slow and careful. He understood that panic could make things worse. People around him whispered urgently. Some said the man should move away. Others told him to stay calm. A few laughed nervously, unsure how to react. The sound of the city faded into the background. All attention was now on the horse, the guard, and the man. The horse adjusted its head slightly, still holding the gloves. The movement made the man tense again, but nothing else happened. The horse did not step forward. It did not pull or push. It simply stood, calm and patient. The man's face turned red, not from danger but from embarrassment. He realized how close he had been standing. He realized that the rules were there for a reason. He felt foolish for not paying enough attention. His excitement had turned into a lesson far faster than he expected. A few seconds felt like a long time. The crowd waited, unsure what would happen next. The guard finally shifted his focus slightly, enough to signal control without breaking his discipline. With a calm and firm movement, he guided the situation without sudden action. The horse slowly lowered its head. The glove slipped gently from its mouth and fell to the ground. The sound was soft, barely noticeable, but it felt loud in the silence. The horse returned its head to its original position, calm and unmoved. The man did not rush forward to pick up the gloves. He stayed back, respecting the space this time. He waited until it was clear that everything was under control. His hands shook slightly as he folded them together, trying to calm himself. The crowd released a breath they did not realize they were holding. Some people laughed in relief. Others shook their heads. A few quietly discussed what had happened, already turning the moment into a story they would tell later. The man bent down slowly and carefully, picking up his gloves from the ground. He made sure to stay at a safe distance. His movements were slow and respectful. He did not look at the horse directly anymore. Instead, he focused on stepping back and giving space. As he moved away, he felt a mix of emotions. Relief was the strongest. Nothing bad had happened. No one was hurt. The horse was calm. The guard was still composed. But along with relief came embarrassment and regret. He wished he had paid more attention. He wished he had respected the rules fully from the beginning. The guard remained silent, but his presence alone sent a clear message. The rules were not for decoration. They were there to protect everyone, including the animals. The horse returned to its calm state, as if nothing unusual had happened. Tourists began talking again, their voices slowly returning to normal volume. Some replayed the video on their phones, shocked by how close the moment had been. Others warned their friends to stay back and be careful. Children were pulled a little farther away by their parents. The man stepped aside, away from the center of attention. His face still felt warm. He avoided eye contact with others, focusing instead on calming his breathing. His excitement from earlier was gone. In its place was a deep respect for the power and awareness of the horse. He realized that the horse had not been aggressive. It had not acted out of anger. It had simply responded to movement as animals naturally do. The mistake had been human, not animal. As minutes passed, the scene returned to normal. New visitors arrived, unaware of what had just happened. The guard and horse continued their duty, standing tall and calm. History and tradition moved forward unchanged. But for the man, everything felt different now. The moment replayed in his mind again and again. He understood how quickly things could change. A small mistake, something that seemed harmless, had turned into a powerful lesson. He quietly moved away from horse guards, holding his gloves tightly this time. His steps were slower. His thoughts were heavy. He knew this was a moment he would never forget. What started as a simple tourist visit had become something much more meaningful. It was not just a surprising moment caught on camera. It was a reminder of respect, awareness, and responsibility. The horse stood calmly behind him, unaware of the impact it had made. The guard remained steady, a symbol of discipline and control. And the man walked away changed, carrying a story that would stay with him for the rest of his life. After the moment passed, the area slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but the feeling in the air had changed. People were still standing nearby, but now they were more careful. Parents pulled their children a little closer. Tourists stepped back without being told. The quiet respect that had faded earlier returned again, stronger than before. Everyone had just seen how quickly a calm scene could change. The man stood at a distance, holding his gloves tightly in both hands. His fingers pressed into the fabric as if to remind himself they were really there. He felt his heart slowly return to a steady pace. Each breath felt deeper than the last. Only now did he fully understand how close he had been to causing a serious situation, even though no harm had happened. His mind replayed the moment again and again. He saw the horse's head move forward. He felt the empty space in his hand where the gloves had been. He heard the sudden gasps from the crowd. The memory felt sharp and clear, like it had been carved into his thoughts. He knew he would remember it for a long time. Around him, people began talking more openly. Some spoke quietly about how brave the horse looked. Others talked about the guard's calm behavior. A few mentioned how important it was to follow rules near animals. The incident had turned into a lesson not only for the man, but for everyone who had seen it. The guard continued standing tall, silent, and focused. His expression had not changed at all. To many visitors, this calm control was just as impressive as the horse itself. The guard's discipline showed years of training and responsibility. He did not need to speak to teach a lesson. His presence alone was enough. The horse returned fully to its calm position. Its breathing was slow and steady. Its ears moved slightly, listening to the sounds around it. It showed no sign that anything unusual had happened. For the horse, the moment was already over. Animals live in the present, and this one had done exactly that. The man watched the horse from a safe distance. This time, his eyes were filled with respect rather than excitement. He noticed details he had missed before. The strength in the horse's legs, the patience in its posture, the quiet trust between the horse and the guard. He realized that this was not a show for tourists. It was real duty, real work, and real responsibility. He thought about how easily he had ignored the signs. They had been clear and simple, but he had been too focused on getting a good photo. His desire to capture the moment had made him forget to truly experience it with awareness. That thought made him feel uncomfortable, but it was honest. A woman standing nearby looked at him and gave a small, understanding smile. She did not judge him or laugh. Her expression said she understood that mistakes happen. That simple gesture helped him relax a little more. He nodded back quietly, grateful for the kindness. Some visitors who had recorded the moment began checking their phones. They whispered about how fast it had happened. A few shook their heads in disbelief. Others reminded each other to stay alert and respectful. The moment had changed the behavior of the crowd in a positive way. The man decided it was time to leave the area. He did not want to draw more attention to himself. Slowly and carefully, he turned and walked away. Each step felt thoughtful. He kept his eyes forward and his hands still. He was no longer thinking about photos or videos. He was thinking about understanding and respect. As he walked, he passed other guards and horses standing on duty. This time, he did not move closer. He observed from a proper distance. He noticed how peaceful everything looked when people followed the rules. The scene felt balanced again. The sounds of the city became clearer as he moved farther away. Traffic noise returned. Voices blended together. Life continued as usual, but inside the man something had shifted. He felt more aware, more present. The excitement of being a tourist had been replaced by a deeper understanding of responsibility. He found a quiet spot nearby and sat down for a moment. He needed time to process what had happened. He looked down at his gloves resting in his lap. They seemed ordinary now, but just minutes ago they had caused an unforgettable moment. He shook his head gently, amazed at how something so small could matter so much. He thought about telling his family and friends about the experience. He knew some would laugh, others would be surprised. But he also knew the story carried an important message. It was not just about a horse taking gloves. It was about paying attention, respecting rules, and understanding that animals are not objects. The man realized that many people visit famous places without fully thinking about the meaning behind them. Guards, horses, uniforms, and traditions are often seen as attractions, but behind all of it is serious work, training, and responsibility. That understanding felt valuable. Back at Horse Guards, the crowd had fully settled. New visitors arrived, unaware of what had happened earlier. They took photos, talked quietly, and admired the scene. The guard and horse continued their duty as if nothing had interrupted them. Their calm presence showed strength and consistency. The incident slowly became a story passed quietly among the crowd. People pointed from a distance and whispered about the man who had stood too close. It was not done to shame him, but to warn others. The message was clear without words. The man stood up and prepared to leave the area completely. Before walking away, he took one last look back. He did not raise his phone. He did not step closer. He simply looked, taking in the scene with his eyes and memory instead of a screen. He felt thankful that nothing serious had happened, thankful for the guard's discipline, thankful for the horse's calm nature, and thankful for the lesson he had learned without harm. As he walked away, the weight of embarrassment slowly faded, replaced by calm reflection. He understood that mistakes can become lessons if one is willing to learn. That thought brought him peace. The day continued in London, filled with movement, history, and life. People came and went. Guards stood firm. Horses remained steady. Tradition carried on, just as it always had. But for the man, that short moment near Horse Guards had become one of the most meaningful experiences of his visit. It was not because of excitement or surprise, but because it taught him something real, something simple, something important. He walked away quietly, blending back into the crowd, carrying with him a new respect for rules, animals, and the unseen responsibility behind famous traditions. The lesson stayed with him, clear and lasting, long after the sounds of the city faded into the distance. The man continued walking through London, but his thoughts stayed behind at Horse Guards. Every step he took felt slower, more thoughtful. The busy streets around him were full of people, cars, and noise, yet his mind was quiet. The moment with the horse had settled deep inside him. It was no longer just a surprising event. It had become a personal lesson. He stopped at a small cafe nearby and sat by the window. He placed his gloves on the table in front of him and looked at them for a long time. They seemed ordinary, just a pair of gloves, but now they carried meaning. They reminded him of how easily excitement can turn into carelessness, and how quickly a simple situation can change. As he sat there, he replayed the day from the beginning. His excitement, his curiosity, his desire to get close and capture the perfect picture. He realized how common that feeling was. Many people travel to famous places wanting memories they can keep forever. But in that desire, they sometimes forget to stay aware of their surroundings. He took a deep breath and smiled softly to himself. He was not angry at himself anymore. He understood that learning does not always come from books or warnings. Sometimes it comes from experience. What mattered most was that he had learned without anyone getting hurt. Later that day, he met a friend who lived in London. As they talked, the man shared the story. He told it honestly, without exaggeration. His friend listened carefully, then nodded with understanding. Instead of laughing, his friend said the experience showed how important respect is in public places, especially around animals and traditions. That reaction made the man feel lighter. He realized that the story was not embarrassing anymore. It was meaningful. It carried a message that could help others avoid making the same mistake. That evening, the man returned to his hotel room. He sat by the window and watched the city lights glow against the dark sky. London felt different now. It was no longer just a place full of landmarks and photos. It felt alive, serious, and deserving of respect. He opened his phone and looked at the photos he had taken earlier. The guard stood tall. The horse looked calm and strong. The pictures were good, but they did not fully capture the feeling of the moment. He understood now that some experiences are meant to be remembered, not recorded. Over the next few days, the man noticed a change in himself. When he visited other places, he read signs carefully. He watched how locals behaved. He kept his distance and observed quietly. He felt more connected to the places he visited, not because he was closer physically, but because he was more aware. The story of the horse slowly began to spread online. Some people shared videos, others wrote comments. Many viewers talked about how important it is to follow rules near working animals. Some shared similar experiences of learning lessons the hard way. The story turned into a reminder for travelers around the world. When the man saw some of these posts, he did not feel upset. He felt calm. He knew the truth of what had happened. He knew the horse had not acted aggressively. He knew the guard had done his duty perfectly. And most importantly, he knew he had learned something valuable. Back at Horse Guards, life continued as usual. Guards stood in position day after day. Horses remained calm and alert. Tourists came and went, many of them more careful now because of the story they had heard. The tradition remained strong, supported by discipline and respect. The man eventually returned home, but the memory traveled with him. When friends asked about his trip, he shared many stories, but the one about Horse Guards always stood out. He told it not for attention, but to share the lesson. He explained how close he had been, how small the mistake was, and how powerful the moment became. People listened closely. Some nodded. Some looked surprised. All of them understood the message. Over time, the story became a reminder in his own life too. Whenever he felt rushed or careless, he remembered the calm strength of the horse and the steady discipline of the guard. He remembered how awareness can prevent problems and how respect can change everything. Months later, he found himself visiting another historic place, this time in a different country. As he stood among the crowd, he noticed signs asking visitors to keep distance and remain quiet. He smiled to himself and stepped back without hesitation. The lesson had stayed with him. He realized that true experiences are not about getting as close as possible or capturing everything on camera. They are about understanding, patience, and respect. That understanding made his travels richer and more meaningful. The gloves still sat in his drawer at home. He had thought about throwing them away, but he decided to keep them. Not because they were special, but because they reminded him of growth. They reminded him that learning can happen anywhere, even in moments of surprise. Looking back, he felt thankful for the horse, thankful for its calm nature, thankful for the guard's discipline, and thankful for the lesson that came without harm. The story was simple, but its impact was deep. A man, a horse, a small mistake, and a powerful reminder. It showed how traditions deserve respect, how animals deserve space, and how awareness matters more than excitement. London remained busy and historic, filled with stories old and new. Among them was this quiet lesson, passed from person to person, reminding visitors to slow down and pay attention. For the man, that day in 2023 became more than just a memory. It became a turning point in how he viewed the world around him. He learned to observe before acting, to respect before approaching, and to understand before reacting. And in that way, A simple visit to horse guards became one of the most valuable experiences of his life, not because of the surprise, but because of the wisdom it left behind.